What the hell are they doing with weapons inside the prison? It's just intimidation, straight away.
Los guardias nunca te encontrarán. Nosotros entramos, pero nomás son ellos allá.
No quieren respetar el espacio, bueno.
It's the prisoners who control the prison, who organize themselves. We're only instruments to survey the walls and control the barriers. Nothing more.
South American prisons are notoriously known for their violence, overcrowding, and corruption. From deadly riots claiming the lives of hundreds, to prison systems where the inmates are the ones in charge. Being a prisoner in one of these hellholes takes a lot of grit and survival skills. Today we'll be exploring some of South America's toughest prisons and how to survive them, if that's even possible. What Venezuelan prison housed families, including the children, of inmates? How did inmates assassinate a Colombian prison director? And does a prison in Bolivia really offer tourist accommodations? La Sabaneta Prison.
Here, it is the prisoners who are in charge.
Sabaneta Prison is located in the scorching border city of Maracaibo, Venezuela. Built in 1958, it closed in 2013. But 10 years later, some sources claimed it had reopened its doors, causing concern for residents living nearby. Split into 4 areas, the prison was home to disgraced military and police officers, petty criminals, convicts with more serious charges, and the country's most violent offenders. At any given time, all 900 plus inmates were overseen by only 40 officers. The majority were from the National Guard, while as few as 8 officers were part of the prison system. With strength in numbers, an overpopulation issue, and all types of criminals living under one roof, it's no surprise that a hierarchy was quickly established among the prisoners themselves. Like most prisons in Venezuela, gangs of inmates unofficially run the operations inside the prison, with the guards simply ensuring no one escapes. Due to a lack of food, medical supplies, and some inmates sleeping 2 to 3 to a bed, tensions at Sabaneta were always high. In 1994, a prison riot broke out, a regular occurrence in Venezuelan prisons. But this time, things got really bad. Seeking revenge on a rival gang, a group of inmates took it upon themselves to prove a point.
These smoldering remains are the result of an interracial revenge attack. Indian inmates have broken out of their cells and firebombed a section of the jail where white prisoners are confined.
In an attempt to avoid being burned alive, some inmates rushed out, only to be shot or stabbed to death. In total, over 100 prisoners were killed, with some sources claiming up to 150 died. And it wasn't just the inmates causing chaos. In response to the deadly riots, the National Guard stormed the prison with heavy weapons and tear gas. It's unclear who was responsible for each death, but one survivor said he saw an inmate try to escape the fire, only to be beheaded with an axe. He explained how they started playing soccer with his head, shouting, "We have to kill them, we have to kill them." What the f***?
Okay, that was dark.
In 1994, about 3,400 inmates were packed into a prison meant for only 900. Sadly, even after the riots, almost nothing was done to fix the overcrowding. In 2013, another riot involving gangs claimed 16 lives. At the time, the total number of inmates increased to 3,700. Things were also different this time around. There was a clear hierarchy among the prison gangs, with a gang leader, or prawn, in charge of the operations. In 2013, the man running the show was known as El Mocho Edwin. As the leader, he oversaw all business dealings happening inside and outside the prison. Sabaneta also became a home for families, not just prisoners. A total of 192 children were living inside the quarters alongside their imprisoned parents. A raid following the 2013 riots also revealed that animals from dogs to turkeys and pigs, not to mention an ocelot, were present inside. Following the prison's closure in 2013, El Mocho wasn't so eager to leave, but after some negotiations with authorities, he agreed to be transferred to another facility. In 2023, some residents feared the jail had reopened, with reports that inmates were being transferred at dawn to avoid confrontations with locals. Surviving a prison like Sabaneta is simple. Follow the rules set out by the gangs, pay for protection, and do your best to stay out of trouble. Otherwise, your head may be used as a soccer ball.
Soccer?
Overcrowding is a common theme here, but our next prison is also divided by politics. And depending on where your allegiance lies, it can determine how you survive. La Modelo. La Modelo opened in 1960 in Bogota, Colombia. It was originally designed to hold 720 inmates. With a focus on increasing the capacity and holding political prisoners, it quickly became overcrowded. Now, it is one of the deadliest prisons in the country. It has a capacity of more than 3,000, but sources suggest its true population is significantly higher. Divided into north and south wings, this prison is home to everyone from petty thieves, rapists, drug traffickers, and murderers.
The hardest thing is to maintain an equilibrium between the different factions. There is the right, the left, the drug traffickers, the terrorists, the assassins, the white-collar thieves. That's the hardest thing.
The north wing is home to the Marxist guerrilla inmates. Most, if not all, inmates residing here are considered extreme left-wing supporters of the government. They take care of each other because they can't rely on anyone else. The prison offers one meal a day, but only the poorest eat what's offered.
We buy the food. Everything that is eaten here comes from us. The state gives us no way of surviving. It doesn't assure our security.
Inmates in the North Wing are seen as terrorists for opposing the current government, so they get no special treatment. The South Wing, where the extreme right militia resides, is actually more comfortable. Although both sides have poor inmates, the South Wing has a social security program. Overall, right-wing supporters get better living conditions. There's also strength in numbers, with the guards significantly outnumbered.
It's unfair. There are only 2 for 1,600 prisoners. They don't control anything.
Regardless of which side you're on, unlike most prisons, La Modelo is more of a city that runs itself. Prisoners are rarely behind bars during the day. The cells are reserved for new inmates or a temporary home for those seeking protection. The guards who patrol the grounds don't have weapons, but those who oversee the facility from watchtowers above are equipped with rifles. That being said, inmates having access to guns and even hand grenades is a common issue, and the guards aren't stopping much. Before we go any further into the madness of life behind the walls of La Modelo, make sure to like and subscribe for more incredible survival stories. With political tensions overshadowing this prison, violent outbursts are common, especially when the inmates roam freely and the only thing separating the two quarters is a neutral zone. In April 2000, a 12-hour gang riot broke out. In total, 32 were killed and 17 more injured. Most died by gunshot, while others suffered stab wounds. A 2016 investigation determined that the remains of at least 100 prisoners and visitors were found throughout the jail's sewage system. Visitors too? According to testimony from a former inmate, he would actually pay guards to look the other way when they were dismembering bodies to hide the evidence.
The staff is terrible with the people, terrible. To get in there, they search us. They do everything to us, and they know that they themselves are the corrupt ones.
In January 2020, the prison was holding just under 5,000 inmates. During the COVID-19 pandemic, a riot was started by inmates fearing for their safety due to a lack of protocols in place to separate the infected from the healthy. In March 2020, 24 people were killed and 107 were injured during what Colombia's Justice Minister, Margarita Cabello, claimed was a massive criminal escape attempt. Both inmates and guards were among those injured. Autopsies found that the gunshot wounds suffered by inmates looked like the guards were shooting to kill. 3 officers were charged for their role in the riots, but 2 years later, the charges were dropped because the time limit to prosecute them had run out. Most recently, in 2024, the prisoner's director at the time, Elmer Fernandez, was assassinated after he ignored warnings from inmates to stop pursuing unannounced searches within the jail quarters. Surviving La Modelo truly depends on which side of the political spectrum you align with. Knowing who your allies are and staying out of any political or gang-related activities will help. But as is the case with any of these prisons, there's no real guarantee. Our last prison is a society of its own. At one point, tourists would stay at the hotel within the prison's walls. Yeah, it's not the Four Seasons, but you get what you pay for. San Pedro Prison.
There are 20 of us and 2,000 of them. 20 police officers for more than 2,000 prisoners. We're powerless. We can't do anything.
San Pedro Prison was built in 1890 in the heart of La Paz, Bolivia. In 2002, the government decided to let the prisoners run everything inside its walls. Today, it's become a society similar to that of a small city. Although some consider it a social experiment, it's clear that this was simply an excuse to abandon inmates in the overcrowded prison and save money. Now, it's overseen by one boss and his elected leaders.
The new one here is only a prisoner when I decide he's a prisoner. I explain the rules of conduct in this penitentiary. This helps avoid problems later on.
Inmates are allowed to roam freely, but are assigned living quarters based on their age, crime, and how much they can afford. That's right, inmates here need to pay rent for a place to stay.
Rent?
Those with enough money can actually purchase their cell as an investment and sell it once they're released.
The inmates have invented a rating system, so you have anything from 0 stars up to 5.5 stars, where the really rich drug traffickers and politicians live.
The more luxurious cells are equipped with ensuite bathrooms, views over the city, and carpeting. I mean, it's really making me rethink how I've designed this bunker. Unfortunately for prisoners who can't afford a cell, conditions can be brutal. Nightfall brings frequent crime, and for some, it's not the violence that proves fatal, but the freezing temperatures. Making money is essential for survival in a prison like San Pedro. Most inmates work jobs to stay alive, which guarantees them food and a warm place to stay.
There are messengers earning 1 or 2 Bolivianos in order to call visitors to the gate. There are people shining shoes, there are cooks, there are people doing woodworks.
Whether or not a person is awaiting trial or has already been sentenced for life, with little social services in the country, they still need to provide for their families behind bars. This often leads to entire families living in the prison. Although women and children can roam freely, it's still not ideal. In 2018, it was believed that over 2,000 children lived within the walls of San Pedro.
When my husband got arrested, we had to give up our old apartment. My husband decided that from now on, we would live here together. We're like his key point, his strength, so he can survive here.
Most inmates are drug traffickers, but the prison also holds murderers, thieves, and sex offenders. And the other inmates don't take kindly to those accused of touching children.
In one of the sections, there's a sort of a well, and they fill it with water, and they just throw them in there, and they beat them, drown them, electrocute them, stab them, and then just kick them until they're dead.
Those who survive the beatings end up working in the kitchen or cleaning bathrooms and sweeping the prison floors, all without pay. Drugs are also a huge problem within the prison, with approximately 60% of inmates using regularly. Given that cocaine labs are operating inside San Pedro and distributing drugs throughout the country, they're not hard to come by. The heavy use of drugs is often what leads to violent outbursts between inmates. And when things go bad, it's not the guards who handle things, but elected leaders known as delegados.
The delegados let us know if something has happened in the prison. They also determine the penalties for crimes. We act as an executive power only.
At one point, San Pedro was open to tourists. For a mere $5, they were given a guided tour. But that's not all.
For $5 as a tourist, you could spend the night inside this prison and you could get whatever you wanted, drugs, alcohol. You could get the police to order you a pizza. It's just crazy.
The government denied claims that this was happening, but eventually, a video uploaded to YouTube revealed the truth. The Bolivian government cracked down and put an end to the tours in 2009. Now, with corruption and bribes among guards a regular occurrence, tours are still happening, just not as frequently. As of 2025, it's hard to get a true number of how many inmates and families are living inside the walls of San Pedro.
I had a German friend, Stefan.
2 years ago, he suddenly disappeared. The others said he committed suicide. But who knows if that's true.
Police simply patrol the outside of the prison, ensuring that what happens behind the walls of San Pedro stays behind the walls of San Pedro. As long as nothing spills onto the streets, they aren't getting involved. If it isn't clear by now, staying out of trouble when visiting any country in South America is your safest way to avoid dealing with any of these inmates. Knowing local laws and being respectful of cultures will hopefully be enough to keep you out of prison. A common theme among a lot of South American prisons is overcrowding and extreme violence from both inmates and guards. But one prison we didn't cover is CCOT, home to thousands of El Salvador's deadliest criminals. President Trump has made headlines for deporting hundreds of immigrants and detainees to CCOT, suspecting they have ties to foreign gangs, even if they have no criminal record. It's not a place you want to wind up, I'll tell you that much. We did an entire video covering the brutal reality of life behind bars in CCOT, so be sure to check that out. We'll see you next time on How to Survive.